today I am going to be painting a fire elemental. If you didn't see my original post about this guy, just getting some hair off him. In our Warhammer group, or our wargaming group, we're currently doing a Advent painting challenge, basically. So every day there's a new theme. You have that day to paint a miniature that fits that theme, and we do that for 24 days. So today the theme is fire, so I decided to be, or rather a miniature that features fire. I decided to be completely on the nose and just paint fire. So I'm going to do this pretty quickly, hopefully anyway. It's 4 colors and we're going to be done. 5, I guess, if you count the primer. So originally this guy, you can sort of see it under here. This guy was orange plastic. It's a Reaper Bones miniature, and he's sold as orange plastic. I then primed him with Wraithbone, which is my standard sort of off-white primer color. But I left some of the orange plastic under there to give us sort of a fiery glow. Not sure if that's going to help us or not. I think it will, though. So I'm going to start with Yen in yellow, the first of the 4 colors. And this is just going to go all over the miniature, completely covering it. And this is all going to be contrast today. But normally on streams, when I'm using contrast paint, we always get into, takes a while to dry, and I have to use the hair dryer, and it's loud and terrible, and blah, blah, blah. But today, because we're doing something that's amorphous, I believe is the correct term, that sort of doesn't have defined lines in it, we can paint our contrast paint directly wet on wet and have no problems. If they mix a little bit, not a big deal. It'll just give us another tone of the fire. If they run together, no big deal. If they smear, no big deal. So, and this technique we're going to do can be used on anything fire. If you were painting a campfire, for instance, for a D&D session, you could do this, albeit on a smaller scale. Unless you play D&D at G.I. Joe scale, in which case this might be about the size of your campfire. Which, if you play D&D at G.I. Joe scale, please let me know. I would love to see that. But yeah, any scale will do. You'll just have to... This guy works for stream because you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm not like down on this tiny little fire that's, you know, that big. You guys can actually see everything I'm doing up close, so at least that's the plan. And then you can go and apply it to any fire you were ever painting. And this yellow is, as you can see, it's sort of an orangish yellow. It leaves orange where it's thicker, and then where it's thinner is yellow. That helps us when painting fire, because fire is not necessarily just yellow or just orange or just red or whatever. And this, I will say, this is not a way to paint realistic fire. This is a very highly stylized fire. If you just go light a fire somewhere, safely of course, your fire is not just perfectly yellow transitioning to perfectly orange transitioning to perfectly red. It's sort of just hodgepodge of whitish, orangish, reddish, orange, or yellow. So this is not painting it like that. This is painting sort of, I'm going to say cartoon style, but I guess sort of the stereotypical, if you ask a 5-year-old to draw a fire or color fire, what are they going to do? They're going to use the colors I'm about to use. So, but it comes across as fire. No one looks at that and thinks that's... I mean, I'm sure some people look at it and think that's terrible, but we're not concerned with them. So yeah, like I said, just covering the whole thing with yellow. Had an adventure arc where my players had to deal with a fire elemental that had broken from a magical force. Good times. That sounds horrifying. I mean, like, if I met it in real life. Sounds great as a D&D adventure, but I'm saying, I don't want to meet a giant fire elemental. Especially one that's described as having broken loose. That, anything that has broken loose is automatically scarier. Like, there's a Bengal tiger. Oh, that's cool. There's a Bengal tiger that's broken loose. Oh, okay, now I'm gonna die. Got it. Like, the term broken loose just immediately ramps up the danger factor of whatever you're talking about. If something has the ability to break loose, then it's probably malicious. Which a Bengal tiger is a bad example. If a Bengal tiger broke out of a zoo or something, its intent is not malicious. Its intent is to probably be scared of everything it sees and just get away from things. But, you know, whatever. This is D&D land, so it's fine. Alright, so, covered in the yellow. Just missed a little spot there. So now we're going to go into orange. This Griffhound orange. Give it a good shake, because it's been a while. When you shake contrast paint, you look at the bottom. Let's see if I can find an example for you. Here we go. You know it's shaken up well when this white that's on here is gone. So, no white there. I'll shake this one up just so you can see what I mean real quick. Sometimes it takes a while. There you go. There's still a little bit right here, but as you can see, that white is gone. When all that white is gone, you know your contrast paint is shaken up correctly. I'm not sure exactly what part of the paint that white is, whether it's the binder or what, but when that's thoroughly mixed, you know you're all set. So I'm going to take this orange, and basically everywhere where there's a top of fire, I'm going to just paint this on about 2/3 of the way up. And I'm going to be pretty liberal with this. I'm not going to really concern myself with exactitudes on where the orange starts in certain places. I'm just going to stipple it on where I think it fits. Basically, the only thing that I do want to make sure of is that any peak of fire, like these, are orange. Don't want any of those remaining yellow. Anything else can remain yellow. And this is technically a peak, even though it's pointed down, like his chin or something. I'm going to make sure to do that. And if I have too sharp of a line, I'm just going to stipple so that the line is not as sharp. Missed some yellow down there, so that just became orange. And I will say you can do this technique with non-contrast paint also. You can do it with washes or with just even acrylic paint. Literally the only reason I'm doing it with contrast is the ease factor. This, without having to do anything, they'll sort of blend together because they're so liquidy. And so I won't have to worry about that. And they apply much quicker than normal acrylic paint. And they have more coverage than a wash. So really, for a stream, they're the best case scenario. So there's the orange applied. And now, if I see any lines that are too sharp, I'm going to come back in with the... Shake it like a Polaroid picture. Yes, exactly. I'm going to come back with the yellow, and just right here, I see a line here. I'm just going to dot in this yellow a little bit more just to soften that line so there's not a harsh transition to the orange there. So then I'm going to take Blood Angels Red. This is the closer to orange version of red in contrast paint. The other option is Flush Terror Red. This is more towards purple. If you think about the color wheel, you have your primary colors, right? Yellow here, red here, and blue over here. This is terrible. Here, I'll do it this way. So if you think about your color wheel, you have yellow, red, and blue. So our two reds, in between yellow and red is orange. In between blue and red is purple. This red is closer in this direction. This red is closer in this direction. So you have yellow, then orange red, then purple red, then purple, then blue. We want more towards the orange side, which in this case is a warm color, as opposed to when you start getting towards purples and blues, a cool color. And we don't want fire to be cool. We want it, well, we do want it to be cool. We just don't want it to be cold. You get what I'm saying. So where is this model from? This is a Reaper Bones miniature. I honestly do not know if they still sell it. I bought it when they first released the Bones line. They had a Kickstarter where $100 got you every single model in the line. And I bought that because it was like 200 some miniatures for $100. A lot of miniatures. And he was included in that. I think it's a stretch goal. I do not know if they continue to produce him. I probably should have learned this before I started streaming. I'll be honest. Once I get this guy done, I will look him up and see if I can find him and direct you to him. But now I'm just taking the red and I'm just painting on the basically where I put the orange, but not all of the orange. About half of the orange is getting this color on it. Applied exactly the same as the orange, though. Stippling it on, trying to keep transitions soft. Get down here. And then, as I've talked about many times before on stream, we'll come to a stopping point as soon as this is done here. And then we will evaluate. I am going to go a step further on this, but you absolutely do not have to. You could be done right as soon as this step is over if you wanted to be. I mean, you could have been done at the last step if you wanted. I think you need a slightly stronger tone than the orange, though, personally. All right, so there's that red applied. And again, we got a harsh line right here. I think we keep having harsh lines right there because this is such a smooth surface. I think it's supposed to be like his face. So we're just going to go back to our previous color, which is the orange. Why did stream start? I was busy. Complains that the stream starts late. Complains that the stream starts early. When in fact, neither of those things are true. But yeah, so I'm just going to take this orange and stipple it up here. And as you can see, there we go. We smooth that line out completely. Now we have a little bit too harsh of a transition right here between our orange and our yellow. So we're going to go back 2 colors, grab some of the yellow, and just stipple it on here, mix it up a little bit. And there we go. Now we have a much nicer transition between those colors there. All right, so this, like I said, you could be done right here, to be honest. He is on a base just for holding purposes. I'm going to take him off this base, though. I think he looks best without a base, personally. He ships without a base. I think just sitting him down like this is the coolest way to display him. But yeah, so you could be done right here if you wanted. I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to take Black Templar, and this again goes to that more stylized version of a fire that I'm trying to achieve. And so just on the tips of each of the flame things here, I'm just going to stipple on some black. Just make it look sort of like there's a transition to smoke occurring. doesn't make sense. You're not ever, I shouldn't say ever, you're probably never going to see black fire. Who knows, though? It might be possible in some scientific lab somewhere. Or maybe with those color changer things you buy at like the dollar store. But for the most part, you're never going to see black fire. But just to show the transition towards smoke, I'm just going to dot these at the top of each of these peaks here. And then we'll come back with the orange and the red and just soften up any harsh lines that exist. And just get the other side. And when I come to soften these lines up, I'm going to soften them with the orange, not the red, because the red is such a strong color that it will, I have the potential to overpower my orange in a lot of places if I use too much red. So I'm going to go down another step and use the orange to soften this, in hopes that I don't lose my full color transition. I'll show you that in just a second, as soon as I get this stuff applied. Alrighty. Think we've got all of them. Yep, that looks good. So then, like I said, I'm just going to take this orange, come down wherever there's some black, if there's just too harsh of a transition, and just stipple on some of this orange. Down there. Up here. That looks good. Basically, you just, if you're not, let's see if I can speak words. If you're not exactly sure how to soften a transition, you basically want any lines in your colors to flow with the lines of whatever you're painting. So, for instance, let's see if I can find one. I've just softened a lot of them. All right, so right here. See on this black, the lines of the miniature are flowing down like this. But this line right here of black is going across. We don't want that. So we're going to take some of the orange and smooth it like this. So then our line of, as I take too much black off. So then our lines of black are flowing this way with the lines of the miniature. That's what I mean by soften a transition. Because lines that are flowing with the miniature will look natural. Lines that are flowing against the grain, essentially, will look wrong and out of place. Especially in fire like this, you would not have harsh transitions. You would just sort of meld one color to the next. And when I do this, I'm not rinsing my brush when I dip it in the orange. It's probably bad, and I'm probably getting some black in the orange, and that's probably terrible and blah, 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 but I'm not super concerned with it. All right. So there is our black added. And it's only 122. And we're basically done with this model, aside from drying time. So I'm not really sure what to do now, to be honest. I don't really want to just turn the stream off at 22 minutes. But at the same time, he is a finished model. So let me think about what I could do here. I could make him a base, I suppose. I don't want to make him on this base because that will, if I pull him off, I'm going to rub all sorts of paint on this. So let me get another base, and I'll make him a base real quick. With some techniques that we've used on stream before. Let's see here. Yeah. Alright, so this will be a highly stylized base because it's quite large for him, but that's okay, we can work with it. So I'm gonna have to prime this. It's just not gonna work, guys. Sorry about that. I realize I'm gonna have to prime that base and do all sorts of stuff with it. So I'll just use the base he's got on him and build up a little bit of something, and we'll see where that goes. Let's see. I think I'll just use some Mordant Earth. This is black texture paint. Just gonna put this down on the base. Oh, this is crackle paint. That's not what I want. Man, this is called Unprepared the Stream right here. Let's see what I have that I can do instead. I didn't really think about this going as fast as it did. Here we go. I'll use some brown. Just gonna take some Sterling Mud texture. Nope, Sterling Mud's dead. Man, this is literally the unprepared stream. You know what? I think I'll just call it. I've tried to do about 5 different things. Every one of them has fallen through. So I think I'll just paint this guy's base black, and we'll call it a day. I think that's what we'll do here. So let me find my black. Add a seafoam green accessory. No. Just does not fit for this character. So I'm just going to paint the model's base black here. And then we'll call it a stream. Probably have to do 2 layers of this. Some of the orange and the yellow is mixing in here. Just want to make sure to not hit the fire with this black. This is just Abaddon black, by the way, just any old black paint. Do a second coat real quick. It's still wet, that's okay. Alright, there's that, and then just to smooth out this black without having to wait for it to dry and do a second coat and blah blah blah, I'm just going to take some black Templar contrast paint and just sort of mix it in here on the base with this black. That'll just smooth it out, and as it dries it'll be a more complete coverage, basically. So then it's going to be tricky to paint the base rim. I'm going to paint the base rim where he is in this holder right now. I can't really pull him out because I'll rub off too much paint, like I said. So the bits that are being held won't be painted, but just so we can see him finished on a black base, I'll just do it this way. And then once he's completely dry, I'll pull him out of this, paint the last little bits of the base rim, and then post some pictures. Alright. That'll work for now. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, just a quick recap of since this is still not even 1:30 yet, and we're basically done. Just a quick recap of what I did on this model. So I primed, he was orange plastic to start. I primed him with Wraithbone. I left some of that orange plastic showing through. But that part is not necessary because obviously 9 times out of 10 fire miniatures you paint are not going to be orange plastic. I just left it here for fun, basically. Started with E-End in yellow, put it all over the miniature. Went to Gryph-hound orange. Put it about on all the tendrils of fire, basically. Put it about 1/3 to 2/3, 1/3 to 1/2, I guess, up the yellow and put it on there. Then any hard transitions, straight lines of transition of color, I came back with the yellow, fixed them. Then I went to the red, which in this case is Blood Angels red, and I talked about how this is more towards the orange end of red versus the purple end of red. Did that on all the tendrils of fire a little bit higher than the orange. Then any harsh lines that came up, I again went back, but this time to orange, fixed them up. Then the final step, I took some black Templar contrast paint, put it on the very tips of the fire to give it a sort of transition to smoke look. Then, because this red is very strong, I went back to the orange and fixed up any lines, harsh lines between the red and the black. I used that instead of the red because if I use too much red, I'll drown out my orange, and orange is like the stereotypical color of fire, so you want your orange to definitely show through and not get drowned out by the red. You don't want just a yellow to red transition. That would not look good. And then after that, I thought about building him a base, but then I didn't have the material I needed, and I didn't want to prime the base, and blah, blah, blah. So here he is, done on a black base. Like I said, this technique will work for any and all fire you wish to paint, big or small. Unless you're painting in a different color, obviously, but, you know, for the quintessential color of fire, this is what it takes. So, yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Short one today, but when you're done, you're done. Like I've said before, don't force a miniature. Don't force yourself to keep working on a miniature if it's ready to be done. But anyway, I'll be back on Friday painting something. Not sure what yet. I'll be on the Warhammer page for that. And then I'll be back next week, Monday on the Warhammer page, here again on Wednesday. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.